The galaxy had forgotten Earth. 1,000 star systems bent beneath the banners of ancient alien kingdoms, each vying for supremacy in endless wars of pride and conquest. The skies of shattered worlds burned with the glow of plasma fire. Cities once radiant with culture and trade now lay in ruin, their people enslaved to the whims of monarchs who ruled not with wisdom, but with fear. The void echoed with desperation. Trade routes collapsed, alliances crumbled, and the strong devoured the weak. For centuries, the wars raged with no end in sight. Yet, in every council chamber, in every palace, in every war-torn battlefield, whispers had spread of something beyond their reach, a forgotten world that once defied them all. Earth. To the alien kingdoms, Earth was a myth, a footnote in the annals of their imperial history. Humans were exiles, driven into isolation centuries ago by decree of the Galactic Concord. They had been dismissed as primitive, stubborn, and unworthy of the stars. None expected to hear of them again. Until the day the sky itself darkened. Far beyond the contested systems of the Theros expanse, in a sector drenched in war, an anomaly opened in the void. At first it was a ripple, a distortion barely noticed by the sentries patrolling the fringes. Then came the shudder of space itself breaking apart. The kingdom's fleets halted their battle as the singularity unfolded, disgorging a vessel unlike any they had ever recorded. It was colossal. A warship the size of a city emerged, forged from blackened steel and lined with pulsing veins of azure light. Its hull bore no imperial markings, no sigils of familiar dominions. It was sleek and angular, its silhouette radiating menace. It drifted silently, engines humming with restrained power, as though it had come not to fight but to judge. On the bridge of the alien command carrier Thyron's Pride, General Zyril watched the ship through trembling mandibles. His armies had crushed rivals across 12 systems, yet the sight of this single vessel made his heart pound with fear. What kingdom commands such a monster? He rasped. The answer came in a voice that was calm, measured, and unmistakably human. Inside the warship, within the heart of the USS Valiant, Captain Daniel Reeves stood at the viewing deck, his reflection stark against the void. He was a man of 40, his jaw set with the weight of history, his eyes carrying the silence of generations. At his side stood Commander Sarah Mitchell, first officer, her expression calm but her hands clasped tightly behind her back. At Tactical, Lieutenant Marcus Hale scanned the holographic projections of alien fleets arrayed around them. "They're terrified," Mitchell said quietly, studying the alien warships scrambling into defensive formations. "As they should be," Hale muttered, his voice sharp with restrained contempt. "Centuries of exile, centuries of watching them carve up the galaxy like carrion. Now they see us." Captain Reeves did not answer immediately. His gaze remained fixed on the alien ships, thousands of them circling in nervous silence. He could feel the weight of history pressing on his shoulders. Earth had returned to the galactic stage, but not as the broken exile they remembered. The Valiant was the culmination of centuries of isolation, technologies honed in secret, weapons crafted to ensure humanity would never kneel again. "Open a channel," Reeves said at last. The comms crackled. Across the void, alien rulers and generals strained to listen. Threats had already been prepared, bribes whispered, even offers of alliance, but the ship had remained silent until now. When the voice came, it was steady, resonant, and carried with it the cold authority of judgment. "This is the Battleship Valiant, representing Earth. You have fought your wars unchecked. You have enslaved and destroyed without remorse. That time ends today. You have one chance to stand down." The words rolled across the fleets like a storm. On the command decks of alien vessels, silence reigned. Kingdoms that had never bowed to one another felt their arrogance crumble in the shadow of that single declaration. The Valiant's weapons did not need to fire, its presence alone suffocated them. On board the bridge, Sarah Mitchell drew in a breath, her eyes fixed on Reeves. "You think they'll listen?" Reeves' expression hardened. "They'll have to." But in the deep silence of the void, he knew the truth: some would not kneel willingly. Some would have to be reminded. The silence after the Valiant's transmission was deafening. Across 100 command bridges, alien monarchs and warlords stared into the void, paralyzed. They had known fear in battle before, but this was something greater. Fear of an unknown power that had returned not with begging hands, but with a command. The first to speak was King Vathar of the Pyrrhic Dominion, his jeweled robes shimmering as he appeared in the holocouncil chamber aboard the Valiant. His voice quivered though he tried to mask it with pomp. Mighty vessel of Earth, you must understand, the wars are not our fault alone. My enemies struck first. It is survival, only survival, that drives us. If you lend us your strength, I will declare Earth an eternal ally. Another voice cut through, cold, sharp, proud. High Empress Thalmari of the Sereth Kingdom leaned forward, her 4 eyes narrowed with suspicion. Do not listen to his lies, human. Pyrrhic feeds on weak colonies. They burn children to ash for tribute. If Earth seeks justice, then aid me. Together, we will cleanse the stars. One by one, the rulers erupted in desperate pleas and furious counterclaims, their voices overlapping into chaos. Some offered tributes of worlds. Others demanded neutrality, their threats trembling beneath thinly veiled fear. A few, the most arrogant, spoke of resistance, swearing their fleets would not bow to a forgotten exile. On the bridge of the Valiant, Reeves let the noise wash over him. His jaw tightened, his hand gripping the railing. Look at them, Marcus Hale muttered, disgust dripping from his voice. Vultures clawing at our return. The same kind who banished us centuries ago. Now they beg. I say we let them drown in the blood they spilled. Sarah Mitchell's gaze was steady, though her voice carried quiet tension. And if we do that, Marcus, we become no different than them. Humanity didn't build this ship to burn the galaxy, it was built so we'd never be enslaved again. Reeves said nothing. His silence was louder than the storm raging across the calms. He remembered the stories passed down through generations, how the Galactic Concord, led by many of these very kingdoms, had once declared humanity unfit for the stars. How Earth had been cut off from trade, technology, and allies. Exiled into isolation. Left to die. But humanity had not died. It had endured. Forged in solitude, Earth had turned inward, building ships, weapons, and engines that no kingdom could imagine. The Valiant was proof of that. And now the galaxy that had cast them out knelt at their feet. Captain, Sarah's voice broke his thoughts. We have an incoming transmission. It's not routed through the council channels. It's a direct signal. From a shuttle. Reeves turned. A shuttle? Yes, sir. It's approaching fast, hailing us. Reeves' brow furrowed. Bring it aboard. Moments later, in the Valiant's hangar, the shuttle's ramp descended. Out stepped a tall, gaunt figure draped in crimson armor. His scales bore the wear of war, and his golden crest hung low in exhaustion. Guards raised their weapons, but Reeves motioned them down. The alien fell to his knees. I am King Zareth of the Myriad Clans, he said, his voice raw, breaking. Captain Reeves of Earth. I beg you. My people are dying. The warlords harvest our worlds, enslave our children, bleed us for fuel and soldiers. If Earth still remembers mercy, I ask for it now. The hangar was silent. Even Hale faltered, his hand frozen on his weapon. Reeves studied the kneeling king. Every instinct screamed to doubt, to remember betrayal, to recall the centuries of suffering humans had endured because of alien arrogance. Yet here was one of them, brought low not by conquest, but by desperation. Why come to us? Reeves asked, his voice even. Why not plead to your fellow kingdoms? Zareth lifted his head. His eyes burned with a mix of fury and shame. Because they would sooner grind my people to ash than lift a hand to help. You, he swallowed hard. You carry the power to end it all. To bring peace or vengeance. If you choose peace, I will kneel. My people will kneel. Reeves turned slightly, meeting Sarah's eyes. He saw the flicker of humanity in her expression, the whisper of hope. Then he glanced at Hale, whose jaw clenched with unspoken rage. This could be a ploy, Hale snapped. A snake slithering close to sink his fangs when we lower our guard. I say we put him back on his shuttle and scatter his atoms across the void. Or, Sarah countered sharply, we recognize what this means. If rulers like him are willing to kneel, Earth could reshape the galaxy without firing a shot. That's worth considering. Reeves' silence stretched, heavy as iron. Before he could answer, alarms screamed across the Valiant. The deck shuddered faintly. Marcus Hale's console lit red. Captain! Multiple fleets inbound, bearing down on us fast. It's the Seraph Kingdom. Hale's voice was ice. Empress Thalnaris launched her armada. Through the viewports, the void came alive with motion, thousands of warships cutting across the stars, engines burning bright. Weapons systems flared, locking onto the Valiant. Sarah's voice tightened. She's not going to plead. She's going to test us. Reeves' expression hardened. He turned slowly to face his crew. They've chosen, he said quietly. Now it's time we answer. And with those words, Earth's battleship prepared for war. The stars ignited with war. The Seraph Armada descended upon the Valiant like a storm of steel and flame. Thousands of warships locked into formation, their hulls glimmering with shields, their cannons glowing with the promise of annihilation. The void trembled as they opened fire, beams of plasma, torrents of missiles, kinetic lances tearing forward in a torrent of destruction. For any fleet in the galaxy, it would have been the end. But the Valiant was not any fleet. On its bridge, Captain Daniel Reeves stood unmoving as the ship shuddered under the first wave of impacts. The Valiant's shields shimmered, layers of adaptive energy flaring bright before swallowing the onslaught whole. What should have gutted them only rippled like rain against iron. Shields holding at 99%, Marcus Hale reported, his voice steady now, almost grim with anticipation. His hands hovered over the tactical controls like a predator waiting to strike. Sarah Mitchell's eyes darted across the displays. They've committed their full fleet. No reserves. If we answer with full power, Captain, we'll break them. Reeves' jaw tightened. The weight of command pressed heavier than ever. He remembered the desperate plea of King Zareth, kneeling in the hangar. He remembered the chaos of rulers begging for Earth's alliance. And he remembered the centuries of exile, the humiliation, the starvation, the long darkness humanity endured. This was the moment Earth had been building toward. Vengeance or mercy. Fire or restraint. The second wave of Seraph fire came, heavier, more desperate. The void glowed like a sun, but still the Valiant held. Captain, Hale pressed, his voice sharp with fury, we've endured long enough. Give the order. Let the galaxy see what exile forged. Let them choke on their arrogance. Reeves turned to him, his eyes like steel. And if we burn them all, Marcus, what comes after? A galaxy of ashes kneeling before ghosts? Better ghosts than slaves, Hale shot back. Daniel, Sarah said softly, stepping forward. This is bigger than vengeance. If we unleash the Valiant's full arsenal, they'll kneel, yes, but in fear. Fear breeds rebellion. But if we strike with precision, with control, if we end this without turning the galaxy into a graveyard, they might follow us willingly. They might believe in us. The bridge was silent except for the rumble of enemy fire. Reeves closed his eyes for a single breath. When he opened them, the decision was made. Target their flagships, Reeves ordered. His voice was calm, absolute. Disable, don't annihilate. Show them the difference between Earth and their kingdoms. Hale hesitated, anger flickering in his eyes, but he obeyed. His fingers danced across the console. Weapons primed. The Valiant struck. From its flanks, lances of pure energy erupted, brighter than suns. They tore through the void, not at random, not in blind fury, but with surgical precision. Entire enemy flagships detonated in blossoms of light, their command bridges shredded in seconds. Fleets broke apart as their leaders fell, their formations collapsing into chaos. Then came the missiles, sleek, intelligent, each one weaving through fire like predators hunting prey. They did not strike the masses of smaller ships but the power cores of carriers, the engines of destroyers. The Valiant strikes dismantled the Seraph Armada piece by piece, leaving survivors adrift, alive but broken. Within minutes, what had been the might of the Seraph Kingdom was scattered debris and terrified survivors. On the alien command carrier, Empress Thalnari watched her empire unravel in horror. She had believed the humans were myth. She had believed arrogance could match exile. But now her screen showed only wreckage and silence. On the Valiant, Sarah whispered the truth out loud, "It's over." But Reeves knew better. It's just begun. Hours later, the Holocouncil reconvened. Rulers who had screamed threats and bargains now sat pale and trembling, their eyes averted like children before a stern parent. Behind them, the shattered remnants of the Seraph fleet drifted silently in orbit, a monument to Earth's restraint. Reeves stood before the council, his uniform simple, his voice carrying across the void with unwavering command. You forced humanity into exile. You thought Earth would break. Instead, we endured. And now, we have returned, not to destroy, but to end what you have made of this galaxy. The rulers shifted uneasily. Some opened their mouths to speak, but Reeves raised a hand. Listen well. The wars ends now. No more kingdoms feeding on the weak. No more burning of worlds. From this day, Earth decrees unity. Trade will flow again. Peace will not be begged for, it will be enforced. And if any among you defies this, remember the Seraph fleet. The silence that followed was absolute. Then, slowly, one by one, rulers bowed their heads. Not just in fear, but in recognition. King Zareth was the first to speak, his voice clear, resolute. The myriad clans will kneel, Captain Reeves. Not as slaves, but as allies. You have my oath. Others followed. Reluctant, trembling, desperate, but they followed. And so, for the first time in centuries, the galaxy bent not to cruelty or arrogance, but to Earth. Later, alone on the viewing deck, Reeves stood with Sarah and Hale as the stars drifted by. They'll fear us, Hale said quietly, his bitterness not gone. No matter what words we speak, they'll always fear what we can do. They should, Reeves replied. His voice was low, steady. But fear isn't all they'll remember. They'll remember that when we had the power to burn them to ash, we chose not to. Sarah smiled faintly. That's what makes us human. The Valiant glided forward, its engines humming like a heartbeat against the void. Behind it, the galaxy shifted, forever changed. The kingdoms had pleaded. Some had threatened. Many had fallen. But in the end, they all had to face the undeniable truth. Earth had returned. And nothing would ever be the same.